If you are a homeowner, a small DIYer, or a contractor, I want to show you the steps that I normally take to install a glass enclosure in a shower. I have this corner shower over here and it has 3 pieces of glass. For that, I actually built this shower a while ago. I took all the measurements and I brought them to the glass company so they can actually cut the 3 pieces of glass that I wanted, and also to give me the hardware that will match the matte black that I have on the trim and the fixtures. So what they sent me was all the hardware, and over here what I have are the hinges. Again, everything in matte black. You can order in different finishes, and it has all the seals as well, the little washers that will go around, and I'll show you in a moment. Also the handle, this is a normal handle that I will install there, and other little sections like this corner piece, the one that is going to hold the 2 pieces in an angle, and it actually moves around, so it's really nice to work with. Now these hinges come with different seals. Some of them are thicker like this one and flimsy like the other one, really thinner. That's because sometimes people use 1/2 inch glass or 3/4 glass, actually 3/8 glass, and these are the tips that I normally use. Both of them, one is a little thicker than the other one because it actually kind of secures better on some of the screws. So you want to use the right one. Don't use the regular Philip that I think is a number 2 over there. Don't use the regular one on the big screws. Use them in the small little screws that you're going to use to attach the pieces with. So that you're going to use the regular one and the thick one for the other one, and I'll show you in a moment. Now to make the holes on this tile, I'm going to use this special drill bit. This one has some sort of diamond dust around it, and is by far the best. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure. We're going to measure how deep our shower enclosure is going to be, and we're going to start doing some marks. The important thing about that is that this is where I spend a lot of my time. I want to make sure that everything has the right depth, that whenever I make all my measurements, everything goes accordingly, and before I start placing things, I want to make sure that I have everything almost the size that I want, or the size that I want, so I don't have to send something back again, remove it, and then have them cut in or something like that. Now, because I have this little knee wall over here, I want to make sure that everything goes nice and flush. And if you notice, I have a small gap over here. So here I have to make a small cut with a grinder. This is one of the most delicate cuts that you do because you are cutting right next to tile and you don't want to touch the tile, so you have to be extremely careful. Notice that I'm putting my hand on the bottom of the grinder cover, so I can control all and I'm doing this gently. I can control all the weight that I'm putting on it, the pressure, and I'm just collecting a little bit of the dust there so it doesn't go away. The rag is wet, so it will catch some of the dust, but you have to be extremely careful. And also, in a moment, as you do that stuff, you test back again how close is to the wall. If you notice on the bottom, I have those pieces of shim, and that's because I don't want the glass itself to chip. So I put that stuff to create some cushion, and it's almost close, but the glass on that angle has like a little radius cut, and I need to match the radius cut on the top as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just continue on the top, doing a little bit of the roundness of the glass so it can match and it can be extremely flush, so my measurements won't be as bad. So that's important thing. That's an important part of the process, to be really curious about these angles and make sure that when they sit properly and you have a nice close section there. Now don't be frustrated if you have a little bit of gap, because later on with something that I'm going to show you, you can actually take care of that. So now we start with all the levels. We want to make sure that everything is nice and level, and you start marking the section right in the middle of the middle, so you can install the little brackets that are going to hold the glass in place. Now all this is extremely important, but you have to remember that in order to do the stuff, you need to make the perforations, and for those perforations, if you have a little bit of water, you will make sure that your drill bit won't burn. So you have to kind of keep adding a little bit of water as you make the perforations, and I'm going to show you in a moment. It is really crucial for you to do that well, because although these drill bits are really strong, after a couple of holes, if you don't put water, you start burning the tip, and there you go, all the money will be wasted over there. So once you kind of set a little bit of the direction where the drill bit is going to go, then you start drilling and adding a little bit of water so your tip will stay nice and cold. Important, dry it all down really well. Make sure that whenever you're going to work, if you notice, I brought it to a lower speed because I don't want to start working with this fixtures, I will say, this little hardware, and break it. So you want to make sure that you go slowly and you use the right screw tip, so you don't actually spin over and you damage the groove of the screw. So that's an important part. Now, like I told you, this is what we're going to use. We're going to use clear silicone, and because we're making all these perforations, we want to make sure that water won't get there. So I actually dried that by using the piece of paper. I just made a little cone and put it inside there, dry it really well. And I'm going to put an extension over here so I can actually install the hardware really well. Remember that the holes of the hardware for the screws are going to be inside. You want to make sure that your flush, beautiful piece goes on the outside. An important part of the installation of this is that you need to make sure that you screw everything first by hand, because a lot of people will say, well, it's not going to go well inside by hand. I'm just going to use my screw gun. And the problem is that by using the screw gun or the screwdriver really hard, you will damage the threads of the screw, and then that will be going crooked. That's not good. So like I said, you want to make sure that you measure all the spaces well. You want to make sure that you set everything really well before you start installing your glass. See, now that the piece is there, I want to start making the marks on the second piece. I knew the depth already, so now it's really close to each other. But what I want to do is I want to install this properly. You saw how I did the other two. It's exactly the same way that we're going to do over here. We're going to leave the screws in the inside of the shower and the flush beautiful piece on the outside. So this is torque. So if you go to like 16 or 17 on pressure, that's good for the screws. If you go too much, what's going to happen is that you're going to break the screws or you're going to damage the thread of the screws. So you want to go slowly, and you want to make sure that whenever you install it, it's nice and snug, but don't put too much pressure on it, because that you will do at the end when everything is nice and straight, whenever you know that everything is on the place you want, and then you start putting a little more pressure on it. But for now, you want to make sure that it stays nice and in place, and you can maneuver around, you can adjust a little bit. That little corner piece on the top is amazing. It will come with those kind of Allen keys, and then you just add the pressure that you need. Then you go ahead and do at the end the final fastening. Now the door has a nice coating on the inside. You can ask the company that cuts the glass to add a coating inside, so whenever the water hits it won't edge the glass. So that's an important thing, I use sometimes something called Rain-X in the inside, so it repel the water whenever you're using your shower. And make sure that you have all the levels well, and the glass itself against the other will match nicely. So whenever I do this, I use a lot of Shims, but as if you notice, I want to make sure that everything is nice and flush, and I kind of look over, I check for the heights before I start making all my marks. So in this case, you want to pre-install the hinges on the glass, so exactly when you put it on, you know where your screws are gonna go. That's the part where you put the hinges and you take them back again out, and then you put them back again on the door, because you want to do those 4 perforations. And obviously, if you are by yourself, and you're going to do 2 marks on one side, and then you take that out and do the other 2 marks on the other side, with the hinge on your hand. Important part over here, because this is ceramic and it's really soft, you're going to go ahead and do all the holes, dry them up, and then install the screws, as I told you. If you don't have wood behind it, which I do over here, you will have to put some sort of anchors. So you always want to make sure that whenever you're going to put a hinge, you have screws and studs or wood in the back, or anything that will hold it. If you're working with concrete walls, obviously use some sort of anchors, plastic anchors or something. So be gentle over here, but be strong. So as you install this properly, you want to put some good pressure. You don't want to spin over the screw head, so you don't damage the screw head, but you want to be, strong over there, steady. And now that the 4 outer screws are installed, you go ahead and open the door, go inside, and put your 4 screws. Now remember that in this case we are you're just installing those doors right now. You will install the hinges, but you have the chance, because these hinges are a little bit smaller than the opening that you have, or the notches on the door, then you can adjust the heights, you can adjust the space between the 2 pieces of glass and all that stuff. That is important to know, because sometimes, and like in my case, I'm putting a seal on the door, so I want to leave more space. I want to leave like a 1/4 inch space in between the door and the glass panel. If you're not going to do that stuff, you sometimes leave like 1/8 of an inch, but that's it. Now the handle is the same thing. It comes with the screws, so you take all the screws and washers out, install them by hand, and then you leave the screw handle part on the inside of the shower. It comes with 2 little screws on the side that you will use a little Allen key to fasten. That's an important part. Now that I'm almost kind of done with that part, you want to go ahead and install it properly. You want to go ahead and fasten that really well, and it comes the time to do the final adjustment. And that adjustment is by adding some shims. I use this kind of painting sticks, I cut them. Be creative. You can use regular wood shims. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen them up a little bit and start adjusting the heights and the spaces from the glass to the wall, and from the glass to the glass panel, the glass door to the glass panel. So that's important that you have all the heights accordingly, that you have all that ready. And again, if you notice, I'm always having some sort of cushion on the bottom, so I don't chip the doors. That's something that you have to be extremely careful about. Now that I have that the right tip for the hinges screws, you want to go ahead and fasten it one last time, and make sure that all the heights and everything is right. So see how it swings in and out properly. I actually measure all this really well to make sure that I won't hit the walls and anything like that. And now you will have that already there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean the glass really well, and I'm going to proceed with the silicone installation. And the silicone, you want to have this little trick. The trick is to use some hand soap to put on your fingertips, so you can actually smooth the silicone down. Now I'm using a really thin bit of silicone, so I don't have to kind of smear a lot of the silicone over the glass. So you have to be careful and really curious about it, meticulous, because you don't want to have a lot of mess. So wet your fingertips with that, and wipe the excess of silicone on one side, use it again, and you see how nice it will glide over the silicone without sticking on your finger and leaving a perfect edge. That's what you want to look for, that perfect edge. The last part, but a really important part, is to work with the 2 seals that are going to go on the door. It's going to be 1 seal on the bottom and 1 seal on the edge, and that is just to maintain the water inside your shower, especially if you have a small shower. The water is going to splash everywhere. Make sure that you allow the silicone to dry for a couple of hours before you start cleaning or wiping or using it. And the bottom seal is a little different from the edge on the side, but they will maintain the water inside the shower. You can take it out, clean it back again from time to time, so it looks nice and clean, and that's it. So always follow me on my other social media sites. On Instagram, I'm like Hugo F. Correa DIY, and YouTube as Hugo Correa, and on Facebook, I'm as Hugo Correa DIY. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video will help you to do your own projects. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little notification bell. Bye.